This is the team from Malo Cipollini, still smiling. My goodness, he must be very disappointed. As ever, those signing autographs, Cipollini with his Domino Vacanze Electron team. His job today is to survive. Looking back at the Tenax team up here, one of the smaller teams, but Tenax might again surprise a few riders in the stage today, because this is a chance to show, and that is Freddy Gonzalez riding for the Selle Italia Colombia team. And here we have the Fassa Batola together with Pataki, who's leading overall. And who would have thought that when we set off? Casagrande here on your screens now from the Lampre Darken team. A man who's determined to show something today. And the chips are really down today, by the way, in this race, because it's going to be, I think, one of those days when the sort out will happen. Looking then at the Colombia Selle Italia team up there quickly with Freddy Gonzalez, a good climber. And nice to see the Brazil CC Polsat team coming. Tonkov has won this race a couple of times. There we have Magnus Backstead, who got a very special prize for his endeavours yesterday. So the whole of you in Cardiff, isn't there some football game on today in Cardiff? Anyway, if anybody's watching television in Cardiff, that was your man who got that special award yesterday. Simone, oh my goodness, this is the day when he has to really sort out, and Garzelli has got to be, I think today, the man have a go to try to make the offer. And then Mercato coming along, where's Mr. There he is, complete with his little blue bandana. Cipollini, unfortunately, sorry, Pantani, unfortunately we can't see him very well in the bunch, because he has to wear a crash hat now, and Nivea for men. No, interesting by the Nivea thing, I did mention the other day that Nivea was the first sponsor outside the cycle industry to put money into cycle sport, and they've got a special award now, and you just saw that one being donated. They rolled out this morning from the start. Isn't that? Welcome back, and the sun now becoming nice and bright. In fact, it was forecast that there was going to be a bit of miserly rain coming in, and a bit dark this morning setting off the stage, and moving up they were going to run into a bit of a head come crosswind, but fortunately not a very strong wind, so with a bit of luck we'll sail through towards the end without any major problem. A bit dark, as you may have already seen at the top of the climb, where it's a bit on the chilly side, and so they will have that lying ahead of them on their stage 7 of the Tour of Italy, with the riders fairly well together. If you just switched on, then good afternoon. The first bit of action was after 24 kilometres of the race, quite early on, when we had the first little bit of a flurry on the climb, and over the top there, that was the Valiccio Fonte Capo La Bariena. It's probably the shortest climb with the longest name. I'll try again. Valiccio Fonte Capo La Bariena. And that was a third category climb with very few points at stake, but even so they romped up there, and Zabala from the Calme Costa Blanca team got the maximum points, and just behind him then on that the second spot on the climb was Grichenko from the Lambro Credit Colnago team, and in third spot was a man wearing the green jersey, and that is Freddy Gonzalez from the Colombia Selle Italia team. So that's the first bit of action. Since then they've closed the thing down, as you'd expect with this big climb yet to come. You can see the average speed popping up on your screen at the moment on this stage 7 of the Tour of Italy, going from Avezzano to Terminido, 146 kilometres. That's 91 miles of racing. Right, put you back in the picture. And so I've got to go backwards and forwards here, because today we're going to be bringing in the British Eurosport viewers at the back end when we go through up towards the final part of it. And it really sort of rumbles on down now for an awful long time until we get down to the Intergiro, and that's where the thing will start blowing apart the scene, because the Intergiro will be the one when they've covered 118 kilometres of racing, and those final 28 kilometres going up the second category climb of the Castelfranco, and over the top then up on the final bit of climb, 16 kilometres of climbing to Terminido, where we will finish the stage today, and the whole thing will be very different from that which we've been seeing in the last few days. So whilst they're trotting along here, we will be hearing later on back again from Christie Anderson, and if the good friends up in the Solihull Cycling Club have got the, you see, I don't know whether people listening on British Eurosport on the digital system, or whether they're getting the other system which brings you the whole of the programme. I know we still get people having both dishes working, by the way. In fact, my good friend Paul Moran up there in the Midlands near Evesham, he has both systems still locked in. He can either have the dish which brings in the digital system, which is the one just for British Eurosport, or he has the other one which brings in the international, not just for cycling but opportunities for other things too as well. So goodness knows what you're tuned into if you're listening right now, in which case you must be on the international one rather than those on the British Eurosport. I'll probably get my knuckles rapped, by the way, for making life complicated and trying to explain what's going on, but I think it's only worthwhile doing it because there are people listening in English, for instance, in Moscow, St. Petersburg, Istanbul, throughout Kosovo, wherever you name it. This great big footprint which comes out from a satellite dish, or from a satellite down into your dish. There's the one system which is the international system, which goes everywhere, and then there's another one which just localizes only on Great Britain on another signal. So we do get the mix of these, and of course I've got to talk to people who are listening. Maybe I've got a lovely letter from some of our soldiers out in Kosovo 12 months ago, and they have a dish out there and they pick up what you're seeing now, whereas they don't get British Eurosport because it's a different system. I hope I'm not confusing you, but so some of the things we'll do now bear upon people who are watching different systems, and I'm sort of going to set the scene as they're watching, as you're watching here, this little lot going down here, that later on we're going to see. In fact, because we have to commentate and don't have chance to traverse the route, that the position on the climb will be occupied by some members of the Solihull Cycling Club, and where Rod Downs is going to be up there. Guess what he's doing? Stag weekend. All of us blokes have been on stag weekends and stag nights, and I've never thought actually he's been watching Eurosport for 15 years now, and he's going out now to see this stage. Well, he has gone out now to see this stage, and with 8 friends they're having a stag weekend. So if you see 8 guys on the side of the road when we go up the climb with the 2 large St. George crosses on there from England, then that's the guys out there, and they've probably got enormous hangovers right now. So for Rod Downs, good luck on your nuptials, and I hope you have a good day today, and we'll probably mention it later on during the programme for those who will then be switching on to British Eurosport. What a day. Right, top 10 victories there, and you can see there then Pataki with 9 victories. This is going back over a period of time now. You can see that the top 10 victories there, Pataki, undoubtedly this man's beginning to to show his ability in sprinting, and in fact it was said today that is he going to be the next Zabel? Well, I don't think anybody can be the next anything. Well, by the way, seeing Jan Christie down there in 2nd spot, for those of you in Britain might like to know that there was a race yesterday where a big sprint finish happened, and Christie ended up back into 2nd position. And I'm just trying to get all these bits of paper in front of me here, because it's quite an interesting finish, because the Brits, including Mr. Jeremy Hunt and I think from Australia, O'Grady was also stuck in there too as well. So I picked that up then, because we often get bits of information from other parts of the world, and I'll try and find it for you. But anyway, Kosovo there 7, Pataki 9, and Frigo 5, 805. You see a little run down there. Baldato, by the way, 4. That victory he got the other day when he beat McCure, and that was his first victory in a stage in the Tour of Italy now for some 10 years. So at least he popped out and got himself a victory there the first time in 10 years. So he's rather pleased with that one, as you might imagine. Back then with the field moving along here, it's a bit undulating, nothing to disturb them at all. And you might think, well, where the heck's he gone to? No, I haven't gone to the loo or fallen off my chair. I've still been trying to search as to what happened yesterday, because it all happened out there in France. when Hunt was up there in the sprint, O'Grady in the sprint, and the young lad who won the stage, it's gone. It sounds a bit like to me that actually the wind hasn't blown it away, because I remember that time in the World Championships in San Sebastian, we got this enormous gust of wind, and it blew down all the barriers down the finishing line with all the advertisements on it, and it blew all my papers away, and they all disappeared down into the gaps between the seats on which we were all sitting. That wasn't the only time. It also happened when we were out in Valkenburg. Now, normally things are clipped down, but I think this one's just been lost in the process somewhere. So sorry about that, but it was jolly interesting. I'll try and bring it back to tomorrow. It was the first stage of a race up there in France, and it was interesting to see that O'Grady was there, Hunt was there, Horner was there. There was loads of what I call English-speaking riders who got themselves up in the frame at the end of that stage yesterday. More of that anon when I find it, or I'll bring it back to tomorrow once I can get it back up and running for you. Right, back with this race here. 70 kilometres to go. You can all see that. And so as we go through 70 kilometres to go, again on the flattish part here, nothing much to cause the trouble. In fact, it's almost going down a bit. We're going through Fumata, Borgo San Pietro, and then on from there too as well. Well, Fiumata, nice little sleepy town with the not many people out on Saturday afternoon. They're probably all watching football on television, but the race we're going through here, and as you can see, the streams and the lakes which are all the way through here, and moving on then a bit further up country. It's a very wiggly bit of road just here, by the way. It's there they go. You can see that too, can't you? And Psycho on the front right now. This is interesting because they've got Simone in there and sort of interfering with the run of play as the chap in the pink jersey, Pataki, beginning to move through here. And he's going to keep his eye, I think, on the man who's probably setting his stall out to get the stage victory today. So in the red jerseys, then let me put you in a picture about who those riders are, because I do get told off a bit occasionally not to write the actual riders and naming them. So probably you haven't got a pencil and paper down to write it down quickly enough. But the riders from the Psycho team here riding on their Cannondale bike. Well, Cannondale went into liquidation, but they seem to be now refunded, and the bicycle manufacturer in America is back in business, and they've been told really to concentrate on what you know best. That's manufacturing bicycles. They went through a patch when the owners of the business seemed to think, I think his name was Montgomery, that the best thing to do was to move into motorcycles, and off they went and spent a lot of money in it, very expensive thing, and it seems to have caused a few problems. So right now they're back on their main business, that is providing bicycles. The company was always, there he is, he with the flowing locks, Pelizzotti, a bit of a joke to his mate. He could do well today, by the way, and then Calciolti also down there. These two characters here you're watching on your screen, watch them later on. They're just getting ready for the this is like the overture that you go into see a big opera or go to a ballet, and the orchestra's down there in the pits and sort of playing on, just setting the scene. Well, you're watching that at the moment. So let's go back again into Psycho. Simone is there, a man 31 years of age. You may remember that he got slung off the Tour of Italy when he'd been sucking his auntie's sweets and was found to contain cocaine, believe it or not. Came all the way from Colombia or something, so be careful. They ought to have a sort of on the packet, you know, these sweets could damage your future as a cycle racer. Anyway, so Simone then won 51. Number 52, Saki in there. He was the man who every year goes down to the Tour Down Under in Adelaide and starts to set the scene and has the jersey until about the last but one day, and then suddenly finds himself dropping out the frame. So he's 152. If you can pick him up, that's the red guys in the centre there. Specialetti 153, and the most impronounceable man from Lithuania is Sabulaskas. I probably got that terribly wrong. And 155. We just see Baldato going through here, looking back. So I'm trying to give you the rundown on the riders and give you the numbers, and also pick up the joviality that's going on at the moment. And then the other one, Sottogliani, 155, Boniciari 150, and 157 is Pieri. Now, Pieri and Pataki went off on a very similar career path, because Pieri was another rider who started out with I think the Sagna Blue Storm team, which is virtually very similar to the one that Pataki started out. He's their sprinter speciality, 157, but he hasn't really been firing all cylinders like one would expect in this race so far. 158 is Tonti, 159 is Cunego. So that's the rundown on the Psycho team in the red jerseys here on their Cannondale bicycles, aluminium frame machines made in America and shipped over here and kitted up for these riders to compete upon. It looks like we're going to have one of these sort of fill-in times, and I'll do the best I can to just give you some of the rundowns on the riders. If it's Saturday afternoon, you're flipping the channels and haven't watched cycle racing before, then I'll try and pick out the colours of the teams so that later on you'll know what's going on. One of those sort of lulls before the storm, really. And we've got, what, 65 kilometres to go before the finish, and running alongside, again, these gorgeous lakes. We're up in this sort of middle ground between Rome and going across to the other side of the leg of Italy. And again, because of the mountains, and you probably saw at the start of our program how on the right hand side you can see we're running in towards the Rieti, the mountains on the right and a bit on the left. There's a nice little run out for the people in Rome who want to come skiing, because there, Tumino on the right hand side, Tumino where we're going to finish now, it's within easy driving distance of the people in Rome, and during the winter they come out and do a bit of skiing, then that's where it is. So right, it's very warm at this time of the year. Because of the height of the mountains, we do get the snow as well to I suppose provide a bit of enthusiasm and encouragement for those who don't want to go all the way up to the Alps to do their skiing. But that lies ahead of the riders now, and the battle will commence as we hit the bottom of the stage, particularly when we go through the Giro after 120 kilometres. Motion here when Cipollini is asking not to leave the room but to ask his team car to come up to him. Let's try and find out what happens. In fact, they're not going to show us to. Right up alongside the lake here, the lake of Salto, running on the stage 7, quite a short one today, 156 kilometres, 146 k, sorry, 91 miles. So we start a bit behind schedule, but I think they'll pick up towards the end. But it's a lovely little lake they're running aside here. On the right hand side, if they looked up there, the Piano Corino and the Piano the Roschino is up there with the big mountains on the right hand side. They're heading up towards them. When they get up there on this climb, they'll both see the mountains on the right, the Monte Giano, the Monte Cagro, the Monte Paterno, all round about the finish up towards the top at the stage finish today at Terminillo. So big on the right hand side where they are now, eventually our camera will probably pick up all the big mountains, and that's where we're heading. We don't sort of turn up into when you get to Rieti, and Rieti, when we get there, they will have covered 118 kilometres of racing with 28 kilometres to go. So about 40 kilometres or thereabouts of inactivity. Be interested to see if any of us are prepared to have a little go as we thread our way yet again off the many of the rivers that come down into this rather delightful long lake. In fact, the whole part of the world here is dotted by these gorgeous lakes, and it's a sort of place where if you're on holiday you seldom go down here, because you jump into your motor cars and you go whacking your way down the motorway all the way past Rome and on, going down to get some holiday resorts down alongside the coast, I suppose. The other reason why they can have racing like this in Italy is that we're very much an area where not a lot of people live, and so the riders here can occupy the whole of the road, and ahead is lying a rolling road closure as Cipollini's teammates here in the black and white, the zebra jersey, come back to pick up and make sure he gets back into the main field. That you can have this rolling road closure because not a lot of people are out on the roads here, and they are prepared then to pull over when the race does come through. You're seeing the statistics here of young Perez, the specialist climber, who I said ad nauseum, there's a good French word, ad nauseum, fell off a couple of years ago and managed to smash his front teeth and had to have a new set put in there, and with his new smile he's found himself a nice little girlfriend, which he was looking for. Anyway, he's going to be one of those characters that will enliven the last little bit of the climb today, because it's an off go up in the last bit anyway. As it goes up towards the top, there's 11% a bit, 12% a bit, and then over the top there. So the whole climb then just on 16 kilometers lying ahead, and they start about 500 meters above sea level and end up by being 1,615 meters. So it's a fair old climb. We've got a bit of a drag as they go up there. 17 times we've been for the stage finish in Terminillo, and the victories over the years, it dates back right the way to 1936 when Olmo won the stage from Rieti to me. That was a time trial straight up the thing anyway. And 1937 Bartali won the stage, 38 Valetti won the stage, again in 39. As you're picking up here, Pantani, a man who I think would like to do well today. And the whole of Italy, I'm sure, will be urging him on. There is 141 on your screen. That's not his age, by the way. No, he's one of these, I think, most experienced climbers we've got, and he's just following in the wheels there and making sure that he's very close to him. He's Casagrande from the Lampre team, and Casagrande's statistics pop up for you too in the pink and the blue, 111 on his back. So he's just hanging about amongst the key climbers. Casagrande could be a man today. You see the lumps in his back, by the way, there. That's not anything to do with his development of his ribs. That's where he's got the monitor going round, the strap around there, which keeps his heart monitor attached, and it reads out onto his computer the heart rate, and from that they can detect later on, they can download these things off these small computers on the bicycles as to how well the rider's going, because they can also then transfer that into the watts outputs, the power of the rider. It's amazing, these things that the riders have now got, and they say they will have them there. They can be downloaded later on. But here we are, 20 days in the pink jersey. Quick look at Tonkov, who just popped up on your screens just shortly then. A man who's in his twilight of his career would be a rude thing to say, I suppose, because he'll still have a good old go today, riding with this CCC Polestat team. And Tonkov won the Tour of Italy back in 1996 on that particular occasion. So we're now, more information coming up. We've got more statistics for you as the Psycho team put the pressure on to make sure that nobody jumps the gun and puts Mr. Simone in a bad position. Well, looking here at the profile, there we go. See where they're going now on the right-hand side of the screen, up towards Castelfranco. This is giving you a smile here. Once it starts to go then, and then up towards the Terminillo. On the right-hand side of your screen, that is what lies ahead of the riders, and it's a dead straight line up there, but it ain't quite like that. It sort of conks up and down a bit, and that's the one that we're going to have. And by the way, it looks straight on your map there, but it's a squiggly little thing. It's like a bit of spaghetti that you've dropped off the plate, and there it is in your lap or on the floor, like that. And that's where we're going to go up towards the finish. Very squiggly bit of spaghetti. Back then out towards the riders from Cipollini's team. Yes, I think we found the stats now. There we are. And the number of race days in the Giro d'Italia. Well, there's an interesting guy riding for the Lampre team. He's got, I think, to look after Casagrande today. Simone, well, he got chucked off the other day. We're not very happy about that, I suppose, because of the sucking on his auntie's sweets. And Frigo, in the same breath, he had a few problems, and Pantani there, 22 days, race days leading up towards the Tour this year. And in reality, looking back down there, Gonzalez and Garzelli, they've not got many race days under their belts, because I suppose Frigo was the one we see most of all, and Pantani's been riding quite strongly, but and also quite challenging at the front too as well. So it's a rundown. And Ato Gonzalez, the problem with him, by the way, was his contract back down there with 18 race days. Garzelli, can't remember why he hasn't been racing those many race days anyway, but coming into the Giro, those are the race days they've had under their belt. And of them all, I suppose, middle of the pack there, Pantani, he's been very active at the front, and although he has come into this race saying he's a bit overweight, he's enjoyed the sunshine, been right down there in the heel and the instep and the toe of Italy, and the sun's been shining with temperatures up there in the 20 pluses. So he's lost a bit of weight and he's quite happy with that, and of course he's looking to mount. And one about Tour of Italy, as it works further north, we get more and more mountains, and compared say with the Tour de France, where the mountains are down the Alps or down the Pyrenees, when you get on the Tour of Italy, the further north we go, closer to the finish, the more difficult it becomes. Hello, we've just got a bit of a break coming out the front. Palumbo, Aggiano and Frattini. Now Mr. Aggiano could be a danger man. Ah, something's happening. That's interesting. Getting all these statistics out for you. That's the man. Oh, he's 14 minutes down now anyway, but he's quite a sprite little chap, and so this could be someone who want to get themselves. And there's 70th Palumbo. Anyway, I'm going to write the old statistics for you. Save me diving into my bits of paper. Here they come. Now this is how they storm past you. The riders from the Psycho team, we're trying to keep the lid on things, and then suddenly then off they go storming down the road and catch them napping. And I suggest there might have been a bit of collusion where they say, come on, let's have a go. And perhaps even 2 or 3 team managers back there say, look, it's about time we rip this thing off. Will your chap go? Yes, I'll go. And bang, and off they go down there. And that's really sort of stirred the up the soup at the moment. And yet more are starting to go now. Woof. Well, they've jumped across the gap pretty quickly there, which shows that the gap wasn't very great. And the ever-present black and red colours of the Factor team, the team of Mr. Magnus Backstedt and Julian Wynne. Not Magnus back in the barrels again today. They are looking down. It is Magnus Backstedt, my goodness. After getting that special award yesterday, he's decided, I think, that he might as well keep having a go at it. Oh, in fact, they're coming back. Oh, they're off the back. Oh, my goodness. Sorry about this, because on their headphones, we don't always get information. In fact, they've got their way back again. I thought it a bit strange that but we saw a little group of riders go streaming past the red jerseys. Oh, do forgive me. The trouble is that the, how can I put it? The information on one's headphones from Radio Tour is often erratic, and then also the other thing is, are they off the front? Are they off the back? And we don't always get, one thing about certain races, you get Moto 1, Moto 2 and Moto 3, and in fact I'm sure there's lots off the front. They've got to be off the front. There must be doubles behind them. Yeah, that's the lot they went storming past. Yeah, he's settling down. Just confusing us by the shot back toward the tail end, which look very similar to those off the front. And there they are popping up on the left-hand side of your screen, and none of any great threat on the overall classification. And looking at that little lot, I suppose, perhaps only Adriano is anything like a reasonable climber. But probably what they're setting off to do now is that with the Intergiro just down the road, it depends on the points competition in the Intergiro, because there is a competition within a competition to do with the, and they'll time them at the Intergiro. And at the moment, Aggiano, by the way, is lying third in the competition, so that's why he's nipped off down the road, Aggiano, because if he can get into Rieti and go across there with a useful gap, he's 36 seconds down on the Intergiro competition behind Diabassi and Nodus, and Backstedt, by the way, is fourth. So that's why these two guys have gone off down the road here at the moment. And now I think this little lot, I'm going to be too bothered about it, because they're not involved in the Intergiro competition. And so nice little move there. Aggiano then third in the Intergiro competition at 36 seconds. Magnus Backstedt fourth at 50 seconds. And the rest are then a bit further down the pack. So the chase has got to come then from Diabassi or Nudders to try and pull this back. The gap is 19 seconds. So they're beginning to get eat into this one. They also, just to confuse everybody, they also get time bonuses when they go across the line at that particular point. That's why they popped off down the road here, or down alongside the lake, and looking for the chance to improve their position on the competition. 57 kilometres to go. When they get to the Intergiro, they will have just 28 kilometres to go. Sorry, just checking this, 28 kilometres to go. So they've got, yes, what, 20 odd kilometres, 25 kilometres to go. They've quite a bit to go yet before we get to Rieti. So they've gone a bit early, but we'll have to see, because it's an undulating road, and it's, or twists and turns, and nothing I think to bust a gut through here. And so, oh, look at this, my goodness. Yes. Some of us walk on water, some of us, hey, I've done that, isn't it? Have you ever been actually out there doing that water skiing? It's fantastic. Remember going out to Australia doing it, and it's the best way to drown, by the way. You get towed on a great rate of knots, but a bit cold out there now. That's why they've got the wetsuits on, but I prefer to go water skiing in the next to nothings. Here we are. Come back in a minute. Well, here we are. You can see the graphics coming up to tell you where we are. And yes, they pulled over a couple of cars on the left-hand side to go whizzing by, because the gap's now gone up to 28 seconds, and Adriano there doing what he can together with Magnus Baxter to make life difficult on the Intergelo competition. The fellows in the red here for the Cycle Cannondale team, they're not too bothered about that, and interesting, infiltrating it in the pink jersey at the moment is Pataki. Now, the team manager of the Fassa Bertolo team is quite an astute guy. They won't go and chase this lot down, I don't think. They'll let that to the other people going for the Intergelo competition. But by putting Pataki up there in the pink jersey, it's setting an interesting scene, because the Fassa Bertolo team, this is a day when we're going to see different things being fought out. Here we're watching a breakaway group trying to go for the Intergelo. There in the black and the red is Magnus Baxter, ploughing on here, the husband of the famous cyclist from South Wales, Megan Hughes. He's now getting stuck in here, and he's looking to take advantage of the, I won't say lull, but behind him that battle going on for the pink jersey. And here, infiltrating the red jersey, they've got Pataki there, and this is Pataki territory on the flatter part here, and Pataki riding for the Fassa Bertolo team. Interesting move, because in the pink jersey now, he's going to obviously frighten the lads in red, because they know he can't climb anywhere, but he's hanging on in there, and he's going to sort of be in the wheels, and then the Fassa Bertolo team can start to play a very interesting old 1-2, because they've got Frigo, number 64, and Arthur Gonzalez, number 65, with 50 kilometres to go here on the screen. You can see that, who are the people who should be getting into Milan in 2 weeks' time, either in the pink jersey or very much in the frame for a place on the podium, as we call it. So Frigo 64, Gonzalez 65 are going to start, I think, to well, once they've got an easy ride, but by putting Pataki up there in the pink, they were sort of saying, hey, can he survive today? The general feeling is no, he won't, but it means that the other riders from the Fassa Bertolo team in the blue and white can just drift at the back, get the slipstream off the riders round about them, while this little lot, while the cat's away, the mice do play. And that's our little rundown now. 2, 4, 5 of them. Have we lost one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, there's always 5 of them out there, man. There's Magnus Baxter ploughing through in the red and the black, and been infiltrated. Good little move, by the way, there to the riders here from Tenax, Frattini going in that breakaway together with Pozzi. I think they're more interested in perhaps hanging on to get the stage victory today, but I don't think it's quite going to work out that way. But certainly they've gone with it, and they'll drive it along, because Tenax, one of the smaller teams in the tour this year, their top man, Frattini, who's the team leader, is a man called Hassier, who's quite a useful rider, very experienced rider too indeed, and Pozzi, another useful punter too, in this little breakaway group. So perhaps Pozzi is the one that might be able to take over for Frattini. So a good little break, and they can't let him go too far down the road. I think suddenly, as Saki goes through there, complete with his little beard, and look who's infiltrating it too. The riders from the Columbia Cell Italia, here with the blue pants. Specialist climbers, these Colombians, this is their day. And further back, the green jersey of Freddy Gonzalez. It's day 2 as well. And just back further, we saw the pink jersey of Pataki. No great drama yet. The fact they're virtually verge to verge shows that the speed isn't too that hard, and they can just hang on in there. But Seiko, they're really having to do a lot of work today. And that's the gap down there, 49. Ah, now this is beginning to move in favour then of the riders going for the Inter-Giro competition, and that could bring about a change then as far as Dibassi is concerned, because he's not made it. Dibassi hasn't gone there. In fact, Dibassi fell off the other day, so perhaps he's not fully recovered from it. Dibassi and Nodus also got delayed, and perhaps is likewise not feeling too good today, so we could see a change in the Inter-Giro. The Inter-Giro competition, the man leading the one, if the cameras went back down there for Dibassi, has got a blue jersey on, not the one you're seeing on your screen there, but a complete blue jersey as a lead on the competition. And good to have two riders in Tenax here, by the way, because Pozzi in there with Frattini. Both these two are going to ride hard, because the team will get exposure on television, and that's what it's all about. And of course, one of the riders can take it easy while the other one does a bit of a bust the gut on the front, and that will give him a more chance to maybe go for that. And also just behind the Inter-Giro competition, we very quickly go to the, well, not as quick as far as the lads are concerned, but we then go to the first of the big climbs of the day, when we go over the top of the Castelfranco. And the gap between the Inter-Giro and the Castelfranco is only some 10 kilometres, so I think probably what they're thinking here is they can pick up a few euros by going for the Inter-Giro and then pressing on for the first of those climbs before the big boys start to put the pressure on. So interesting way it's all forming here, and the team managers back in the cars behind. The 19 teams that started out will all be looking for some opportunity for their team to get something out of this, and they'll be working out the options today before they came into here. And so we'll watch it here live on Eurosport. Good afternoon, those you're watching it. Maybe you've just switched on. I'm David Duffield, and thanks for your company. And we'll be hearing probably the next 15 minutes or so from Christie Anderson. Eventually we're going to join British Eurosport 2 as well on this stage up towards the top of the finish at Terminillo. Seems that the fire's gone out the chase at the moment, so if those been soldiering on listening to what happened since the start, I know many of you record it, by the way, and then the thing to do is they whiz it forward. And I spoke to my chaps, said, how do you, well, we only listen to the last hour, Dave, or we only listen to the last 40 minutes, because they record the whole thing, all 3 hours, and through it towards the end, and miss the sort of pearls of wisdom. But says he, joking. But I did mention later on in the programme about the race where O'Grady and Hunt and the rest were doing rather well, because Cursipu's name popped up on our screen, and it was in the back of my skull. I found a bit of paper, by the way. It was the Tour of Picardy yesterday, and the stage into Caillou-sur-Mer was won by the young up-and-coming Swiss rider Clerc from the Quick Step team, and he went and won the stage in a sprint finish, and they averaged 48 kilometres an hour. It's a very fast day indeed yesterday. And in second spot was Stuart O'Grady, the Commonwealth Games champion and holder of the green points jersey in the Tour de France, and he took over the yellow jersey likewise too as well, and he was second. And in third spot was Cursipu, whose name popped up earlier on in our little look back at performances, and then it went down to fifth spot. Fourth was an unpronounceable name from the Ukraine, by the way, and in fifth spot was Cook from Australia. And in sixth spot was Amberson from the Factor team, which is the lot in the black and red. That's Magnus Backstedt and Julian Wynn's team. And then behind that was in ninth, well, seventh and eighth. The ninth spot was Jeremy Hunt, and just a bit further back down there too was Young Hunter. So we got an interesting situation where a lot of English-speaking riders suddenly were popping themselves up on the Tour of Picardy. I don't think we're the same today, by the way, because the flat stage suited those riders, but nice to see that we're infiltrating it in towards what I call the hotbed of the cycle sport, and getting some English-speaking lads in amongst it. Magnus Backstedt, all the way from Sweden, again another great English speaker. But if you look at the difference in size of these riders, there's Magnus. Look, he's not going to have a cat's chance in hell of going up that final climb today, but he's getting stuck in now, like he did the other day when Julian Wynn got that that victory in that French race, and he just, at the end, he just powered on. Julian got on his back wheel, and Magnus is a great one. Yesterday got within 5 kilometres of the stage and got swallowed up at the back end of it. But today he knows what he's got to do. He has to go with that breakaway group to see if he can get in the frame for the Intergiro competition. It's a very odd competition, the Intergiro, because it could happen within the first 20 kilometres, 10 kilometres or 110 kilometres. It moves and they time the riders over the line, and it's from that competition with the bonuses too as well that they're able to build up. For instance, at the moment on that Classificación General, Di Bassi, his time for the Intergiro is 16 hours and 27 minutes and whatever seconds it is after that, because they stop the clock just like a finish, as if the race finished there. Whereas Pataki at the moment on the overall classification for the kilometre, they've covered over 1,000 kilometres at the moment, that his time so far has been 27 hours 43 minutes. 27 hours 43 minutes. The average is 39 kilometres now. Just under 25 miles an hour is the speed that this race has had since we set off 6 stages ago. So there, Pataki, the 1,000 kilometres, 1,086 to be precise, the time then for 27 hours 43 minutes. Whereas at this Intergiro competition, when they're going to stop the clock as they go across, say, close to the start, towards the finish, whatever the case may be, it's a race within a race, being led at the moment coming into the stage today by Di Bassi, and the time covered up to the Intergiro cumulatively in the last 6 stages have been 16 hours and 27 minutes. Notice is at 13 seconds, Adriano at 36 and Bagstead at 50. Yesterday, when they stopped the clock, they'd actually been racing for 1 hour and 43 minutes, and he got a 30-second bonus, did Bagstead yesterday for that particular thing, and so that's what helped him move through now into 4th spot on the competition. Maybe complicated for you back there, but also they get, just to confuse matters more, apart from the 30 seconds he got there, he got some seconds in the overall competition too. Oops! Now then, Pantani's taken his hat off. Has it fallen off? Cipollini's talking to him now. Pantani, by the way, is not a supporter of the rule which says you must wear crash hats at all times. I think his teammate's coming up with a crash hat now. He can't have dropped it. He can't have come off. Oh, here it comes now. I wonder what happened. He's had a quick word with Cipollini. Right, we're back at the front. By the way, I don't think anybody stole it. I think I chatted to Bradley Wiggins yesterday, and here he goes. He said the one thing that's been down in the south of Italy, they found a lot of people with light fingers, and as in all cycle racing, if you're not careful, things get nicked. And the most favourite trophy that's been nicked in large numbers over the last few days has been crash hats, because what the cyclists do, if they're going to go through the feed station now, if near the start they get there early and they want a cup of coffee or something, or just want to sit in a cafe, they will go, because when the sun's shining, and they just wander off and park the bikes, and what they do is they take the crash helmets off and they put them over the handlebars. The strap goes across the handlebar stem. They click it round there, and the hat is just hanging on the front of the handlebars, and they nip off into the cafe and they sit there and chat. And interestingly, at the start of various races, and if you go out to see them in the start, you'll see that whilst the teams are here together when they're racing, and they go to the same hotels, all the team are there, when it comes to starting racing, you'll find the nationalities beginning to come together. You might find all the Russians over here, you might find all the Spaniards over there, from different teams, and they just sit there from quite natural, isn't it? But there they sit and they congregate together from in nationalities rather than teams, because maybe the first time they've had a chance to talk to their countrymen. So they sit around there and they park the bikes, and the little gathering goes on. This is a much more laid back, like the Tour of Italy is more laid back, and the Tour of Spain is more laid back. You don't get it in the Tour de France the same way. My goodness, no. the people swarm round about, and it's very difficult to move, and people sit in their blasted camper vans, and you can't get to speak to anybody. But the truth is, it's much more laid back there. If they do get a chance then to have a coffee and sit there someone before they start the stage, and they park the bikes with the helmets on, they've been nicked in large numbers. So whatever you do, if you come cycle racing, be careful where you put your helmet, because they're worth a lot of money, and losing one of those is a bit difficult then, because you've got to start the race with one on your head. Welcome back, and the riders can have a fair turn of speed at the moment, but the gap is still over 1 minute, 1 minute 35 for our breakaway group down the road, who are heading off towards the special sprint, which lies ahead for the Inter-Giro competition. Then we're going to start the sort of thick and sticky stuff. This is our little breakaway group. They'll pick you up on our screen. Two of the riders here from the, it's difficult, isn't it, at the moment, from the Tenax team. Quick drink of water, there it goes. And so we've got two of the riders here from Tenax, Frattini number 171 and Pozzi number 174. In that breakaway group 2 at the moment, number 47 has gone away. That's Palumbo from the Denardi Colpack team. That's the same team, by the way. Oh my goodness. Do you mind if I look the other way? I'm sure sports fans all around about watching our program here at the moment. If you're interested in sport at all, you do many things, don't you? I've been involved in many sports. The one thing I would never ever want to do is climb the side of a rock like that. You have to have an unusual attitude. We've got Christie Anderson coming on the phone now, heading in towards 3 o'clock. That's British Eurosport time. Christie, interesting the way it's settling down with Bagset out the front at the moment. I don't know if you've been caught up the race recently, but how are things out with you at the moment?
Well, at the moment we're sitting with about 7 kilometers to go to the summit of the mountain of the final climb, and Magnus has been doing quite a bit of work apparently. Yesterday, of course, he was away for a long time on his own, well, with 2 others, and today he's feeling good too. So he's really trying to make a move, which is odd for a man who weighs 92 kilograms on the stage.
Hey, you've been doing your homework there, haven't you? 92 kilograms. Did you actually get? He's 90. It says 90.3 according to me, but he's a big guy, isn't he? Anyway, and yes, you're quite right. He's going for the Inter-Giro competition at the moment, and that will erupt. Then they'll come up towards the ground. What's it like? Because working away from being able to see the finish itself, the climbs of the people coming up. What's it like on the climb today?
Well, I can tell you there's a little pinch of about 4 kilometers before you start the final climb, and that's going to take the sting out of a few people. But I imagine once the Inter-Giro is passed, that things will then settle down and become a real race for the climbers.
Chris, you've been following the race so far, and we talked this morning about the attitude of some of the Brits in the race today. Just your comments on the race as you've seen it so far, from a journalist going out, taking photographs, writing up the story, and now a part-time correspondent and announcer and commentator for Eurosport. How have you found the race so far?
Well, as I can compare it to the Tour de France, it's about 100% more relaxed and easier to navigate. The people are much more accessible, the riders, the talent. You know, you see people like Mario Cipollini actually mixing with the general public, which is something you don't really see at the Tour de France because it's just not possible. And that's a really nice atmosphere, and it allows people like myself and yourself to be able to get to see the men in their new jerseys each season and get a bit of a sneak preview before the Tour de France.
Hey, it's all right, but you get advantage of me because you're a very attractive lady, you see. If I try and talk to people, they talk to you, don't they? Anybody significant you've spoken to in the last few days that has had a few things to say that, I don't know, that struck you as something different from the normal? You're quite right, it's a very friendly, laid-back race, the Tour of Italy, isn't it? At the moment, anyway. Anybody you've spoken to that's come out with something that you found, oh, that's different?
Yeah, I think that speaking to Robbie McEwen, actually, he's the one who's probably the most outgoing in terms of his comments about what's going on. You know, he has no problem telling you what his objectives are on each stage, which is something you really don't see in other races. He's happy to talk about his legs and what's going on. But I also spoke to Vladimir Belli this morning, and as you know, he's a good climber. He came second in the Les Ardennes stage a couple of years back in the Tour, and whereas the profile today suits him well, he's basically saying, no, look, we're going to be working for Casagrande, and I think everybody's really looking to see the usual suspects up the front now, the people who are going to be in it for the big general classification.
Now then, Chris, you're reporting for magazines and things out back in Australia, married to Phil Anderson, that great Australian cycle. What about the Americans, though? We see nothing of them this time. I think Trent is the only American, and he's half Italian anyway.
Yeah, they're really not in the action. It's not really, they're not really making the race. They're just sort of surviving the race at this point.
And what about this Bo Hamburger, by the way? I'm interested to see how he's going up. I haven't had a chance to speak to him, but Bo looks like he's making a sort of a good fist of it so far.
Yeah, I spoke to him yesterday, and I spoke to him this morning. We were at the same hotel last night. So, yeah, Bo is looking good. I mean, he's I think he's carrying a little bit more weight than he normally does. He looks a little bit heavy, but he feels strong, and he seems to be having a bit of a comeback.
Yeah, I use the word hamburger then because you Americans are great for the hamburgers. Excuse the expression, because he comes from Denmark, doesn't he? On our screen, we're watching Magnus Backstedt playing along here at the moment, looking for that Intergiro. Nice little breakaway group going on here. Christie, you're going up to the finish, and I know we'll be talking to you later on as it evolves today, but couldn't you stick your neck on the block and say who you think might win the stage today? Come on, I'll put you in the hot seat.
Oh, I'll tell you, my money would be on Gazzelli for today's stage.
Oh, snap, that makes two of us. I'll have to make a second choice, won't I? Oh, dear. But you never know. This little lad, Freddie Gonzalez, is climbing well. I mean, this is the first day we're going to see it all coming apart at the seams. OK, Christie, well, thanks for talking to us. And when you up towards the top, I'll say we'll no doubt be talking to you later on towards the end. And what we'll try and do next time we speak is a quick recap, by the way. And I know you'll be able to see what's going up there too as well, like we all do, on some of the conversations I had this morning, because we're going to come back on air for British Eurosport, I think any time in the next 5 or 10 minutes. So thanks for your company so far, Christie.
Okay.
And I hope you managed to get up. Hey, you're not riding your bike up the hill, are you?
Oh, absolutely not. I'm actually in the car with Mario Traversoni, a former sprinter with the Mercatoni Uno team.
Oh, there's a famous name too, isn't it? Oh,
yeah, he's driving a bit like Mario Andretti.
Change of underpants is called for. No, I'm joking. Bye-bye, Christie. Speak to you sometime.
Okay, thanks David.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, there we are, Christie Anderson on the way up towards the finish, and because, you know, being on air, we've got 32 kilometres to go here on the screen, as you can see. The problem with reporting for Eurosport and doing the commentary, people seem to think that we commentators are actually on a motorbike or something, travelling with the race, and they're bemused about, you know, how we can. So we're actually seeing pictures that you're seeing, and we get information coming out of headphones from the race and so on. But it's nice because it's difficult on the long stages to get to talk to people, and so with Christie out there as a photographer, her job is to take pictures at the finish and then later on to interview riders and write the story up for the magazines and so on. So it's very nice to have her on board with us. You may remember that Christie was working with us on the Tour de France last year. The first time, in fact, I did cause a few, as watching here, the riders going through. You don't need me to describe much what's going on now, but I did ruffle a few feathers early on this week. We've been on air now for a week in this race, only just 1/3 of the way through, when talking about having female reporters and or touchline interviewers in sports, and I ruffled a few feathers when I made some comments about female rugby players, and it brought a storm from rugby fans in particular out from Switzerland, and the president of the Swiss Rugby Club out there. I got a earful from that, but I think it's nice to hear the clear voice of somebody who approaches things from a different direction. One thing about Christie with Phil Anderson, her husband, and she was with him so many years over all the success he did, gets a different insight to the sport, and also as a roving journalist can bring things in that a mere male may not be able to bring to you, and also being constrained by not always being able to get to talk to people. So I hope you'll bear with us on this, and in fact we're looking for other ideas during the Tour de France coming up on British Eurosport, and I hope you'll be enjoying our coverage in that Tour de France, and do, as we're now looking towards the critical point of the Tour of Italy, just to say that if you're coming out to watch the Tour de France, please do get in there a bit quick. I think right now ramifications and chats might well be coming to an end, because we've got 28 kilometres to go when we get to Rieti, on the final climb towards the end of the stage. This, by the way, is the live commentary for you watching on International Eurosport in our live coverage. I think we're getting to the point when we might find British Eurosport will come in for the recap, and they'll be running it a bit later after the football. And so if I dap backwards and forwards, do bear with me as to when we do that particular wrapping up. But if you are coming out to watch the Tour de France this year, we look forward to your company. Check it on your internets and check the information you can about the start. It'll be in Paris. It's going to be a great party, I think, in Paris, because it's the start of the 100th anniversary of the Tour de France, and we'll be bringing you even more coverage than we're doing here in the Tour of Italy, even greater day by day. And I think Mr. Mike Smith will find himself again stuck in the dungeons in Paris. I call it the dungeons because there's actually no light in there. Poor chap comes out with a prison pallor like he's just had, I think, during the snooker. The snooker, you may remember, came from the Crucible in Sheffield. So poor Mike then, from being in the dungeons into Crucible, well, certainly must come out with prison pallor from covering 3 weeks of the snooker championship. And again, we're going to incarcerate him for the Tour de France. Well, I can't guarantee it, Mike. I haven't signed the contracts for the coverage yet, who's going to do what, but I think now that as we're going to 1 kilometre from the finish, let's concentrate upon the Tour of Italy. And thanks for your company so far. Those who've been watching our live broadcasts, we've had the race going on something like about an hour and a half so far. And this is a critical part now as we start to approach the climb. And this is where Magnus Backstedt, just to recap, went away just down the road in the red and black, because they're coming up to the Giro competition here, where there's 30 seconds bonus the first man across the line, and that is what Magnus is trying to go and do to get through here. And then the second spot will be 18 seconds and behind and so on in the sprint. So Magnus will try and, I think, get those 30 seconds. He wants to try and take that blue jersey. He's in the black and the red now, and they're starting to go the old 1-2, because the riders from Tenak's team there, Frattini starts to go. There's also prize money at stake then for getting this sprint, and Magnus is going across the far side. He's outnumbered by the lads in the limey greeny yellow colours here from Tenak, but Magnus then in the black and the red drops into second spot behind him. Another man in this little breakaway trip, Adjiano, is a man to watch out here, because Adjiano could be in with a shout too as well. What's he going to do? They start to come down the finishing straight in towards that special sprint. There's more to come. 28 kilometres left to go there as Magnus Backstedt takes that one, takes 30 seconds, and the gap back will be counted to the main field. Looks like Magnus could be out of his black and red of the team factor in towards the blue as leader on the Giro competition. So right now the rider here in the black and red, could he find himself, I'll wait for confirmation of that, could Mike Fell find himself, and yesterday he tried so hard to win the stage, he didn't get it, but now a recompense for that, he could be leader on the Giro competition. Watch him let it go again. Here it is in slow motion. Well, it's pretty quick, wasn't it? Here he goes. The power of this man going down here. That's the power which would lead out people like Stuart O'Grady when he rode with the Agricole team. The big powerful man Magnus Backstedt from Sweden, married to Megan Hughes from South Wales, living in Cardiff, and a great friend too of Julian Wynne, who's back in the main group wearing the colours of the white, red, white and blue of the British national champions. So Wales at the moment triumphant too. Not only have they got here a connection with Magnus Backstedt, but also Julian Wynne. And let's not forget then that Nicole Cook, who is going so well, as we're looking back here at the sprint for the lesser places. I think that's DeBassi who's trying to come through here in the blue jersey. Anyway, with Nicole Cook from South Wales, having won a couple of the rounds of the Women's World Cup, is now the leader, or what's the last time I saw, the leader on the World Cup competition. So a lot of things happen in South Wales, and a gorgeous part of the world too to go out riding. Julian Wynne comes from Abergavenny. Once you go up towards the Black Mountains, over the top in towards say Aberystwyth and so on, it's a beautiful place to go riding your bikes. Lovely part of the world. Moving then in through Rieti, as the field will surely pull back our leaders alongside the castle walls here, and cameras picking up then the 12th century cathedral back there, and all round about it used to be very swampy land drained by the Romans right now. I wonder if they've drained these riders here from what they did. We've just come up then through the marches and now moving on in towards the big climb yet to come. and taking over the chase are the riders from Lampredijken. That's interesting because the Psycho team are doing much of the chasing so far. And nice to see right there on your screens then with those lovely old medieval walls. You can imagine there the Romans came, and over the years the walls are built, I don't know, to keep people in or keep people out, but certainly now it's a lovely old part of the world. We're now going up towards the climb at Terminillo. It's a ski resort, and it's if you go to the top, the highest part is some 2,000 meters further on beyond where the race will go today, and we're going to get some lovely sights back down as here we are, 25 kilometers to go. Magnus Backstedt there in this group at the moment with the two riders from the Tenax team. Frattini 171, also there too 177 Pozzi. This is the main group coming through. The maximum gap they have is about a minute and 30 seconds. Two in that group, Adriano from Agio Fiave in that breakaway group wearing 81. In that breakaway group as well was Palumbo of the Dinardi team. That's a little group down the road as the riders from the Lampredijken team take up the chase. The gap is now down to 33 seconds, down as low as 34. So this is stage 7 of the Tour of Italy from Avezzano to Terminillo, 146 kilometres in all, 91 miles in actual English money, and a little problem down there. It looks like one of the teammates of Pantani, and this is the day surely with 25 kilometres to go when Pantani's got to show. There's been a lot of conversations about him. Has he come back with a bang? And there, amazingly, Cipollini's starting to move towards the front of the group with 25 k's to go. He knows today, by the way, he's got to stay together with Pataki so near to front as he possibly can do, because once they hit the climb, he has to stay within the time percentage which will be imposed upon the finishers today. And he and other big riders who've had very much the race under their wing in the last 6 days now know this is the day of the mountain climbers, and the men like Cipollini, like Pataki and Julian Wynne and Backstedt et al. Have got to struggle to stay inside the time limit. That's running down as we go towards the critical point on this stage 7 of the Tour of Italy. There, Garzelli there. What have we done here? Pataki is the overall leader. He's number 1, but we don't see Pataki in the pink jersey there in Milan wearing the pink. But could it be Garzelli, Cassandri, Simoni, Patani, Aito Gonzalez, Rumsas, Frigo, Caucioli, Tonkov, or Cupio. Back down there, Perez Cupio is probably the firecracker who could win a stage like this today, but not because he won 41 down, perhaps taking the pink jersey. So people may go for the stage victory, like Perez Cupio, like Freddy Gonzalez in the green jersey leading on the King of the Mountains competition. But that battle will be going on between Garzelli, Cassandra, Casagrande, Simoni, Pantaki, Gonzalez. Rumsas, well, he may have to do some work then for Casagrande. You never know. And Frigo there for the Fassa Bartolo team may also have to do some work likewise, because they can fire, the Frigo can be fired off for the Fassa Bartolo team, because they've got two guns to fire. Aito Gonzalez and Frigo, number 64 and 65, you're looking for the numbers. Those two riding for the same thing, Fassa Bartolo. They've got the pink jersey of Pataki. I think he'll be abandoned today, in inverted commas. He has to find his own way up, as Fassa Bartolo will try and make sure they keep the pink jersey, but it'll have to be either Frigo or Gonzalez that takes it over from their teammate. Right, eyes down looking on the left-hand side. Perez then starts to ride up this climb. It's a zigzaggy little climb, like somebody's dropped a little string of spaghetti upon the floor. And not much time today, by the way, for talk about the food and the wine. That's for the flatter stages. And tomorrow's Sunday. This is going to frighten the pants off Luigi Ortenzi if he's listening to our commentary. Luigi, I'm going to phone you later on after the stage finishes, and perhaps we might have a chat tomorrow about this lovely list of the food that you sent to me, the specialities of each of the towns and parts of the world we've been through. I did actually not go for the cassata, by the way, the Sicilian cassata. That looked a bit on the rich side for me, but thanks for inviting me to take in the local delicacies and the wine. Certainly some I haven't been able to find them on the way through, sticking very often to the Chianti Classico. But who's going to celebrate tonight? What are we going to be drinking at the end of it all? And is this man Casagrande going to be there spraying all and sundry? That's one we picked up as our cameras go back now and start now to concentrate upon the stars who today might come all the way through. Cipollini's starting to fall back. This is exactly what we expected to happen. Can he stay within that time limit? Cipollini, that's at 13 minutes. Well, he's way down in class. It doesn't matter about that. He just has to stay there today. And, well, there is a feeling that sometimes the man who wears the rainbow jersey as world champion has the kiss of death. The number of riders, and I shouldn't say death because we did have that terrible occasion some years ago when wearing the rainbow jersey of the world champion, that Pierre de Montserrat, he was actually killed in a race, and that was it. But so many of the riders in the world championship jersey have had the curse of the jersey. Stephen Roche had problems with his knees, you may remember, and Luc Leblanc, he did actually nothing. In fact, when he went after the end of the to join Le Groupement, it went bust and he was out of a job. Stephen Roche had his knee trouble, that put the end to him too, likewise as well. Rudy Darlens, he got the World Championship jersey, and he went through the whole of the season and didn't do anything. Martin Bross, who won in Zolder, well, after that he won the championship jersey, that was it, and nothing happened to him after that. And even remember that Oscar Freire had 9 victories, including a stay in the Volta in 2000, but he had knee problems and back problems too. Museo also had knee problems, and Frondres, he had back problems. A number of riders who've had, and what happened to Veinstins after he won in Plouay? We never saw much of him, and this year he's starting to come back. So the World Championship jersey, I think half the problem is, not half, but there's often an opportunity, as we see now the thing being split in front of your very eyes here, is that particularly Mauro Cipollini's point of view, he, as a special sprinter, can't really climb the big mountains, and if he puts a bit of weight on, which you can do in the winter, the trouble is if you're world champion, then you're invited to all the big functions, and it's difficult to concentrate to get back into training. And why not take advantage of the rainbow jersey? Of course, the exceptions were people like Eddie Merckx and Freddie Mattens. They were exceptions who went on to do well wearing that rainbow jersey. More of that anon as the race begins to sort itself out on this climb up towards the finish at Terminillo. Just running through that run-up today. If you just joined us on British Eurosport on our programme a bit later, I think, than the live action, thanks for being with us, and for those of you on international too, thanks for staying with us right the way through since we started earlier on. And up here we're trying to be lookouters. Adriano and Pozzi hanging on there from the breakaway group. We'll be going up here. We're going to be looking out too, because alongside the side of the road, we'd like to see 2 large St George crosses, by the way, because out there celebrating his stag party, by the way, because Rod Downs, together with 8 of his friends, they go on a stag weekend. He said if it's possible to stay, hello, but no, we're on air for 3 hours, Rod. Couldn't do that, by the way, but we may pick up, I hope, the 2 large St George crosses. He's a former member of the Solihull Cycling Club, ex-divisional champion, having his stag party today on this climb. What an amazing thing is. And also I think I'll to give him a medal because he's been watching Eurosport coverage of cycling for the last 15 years, and this is his first time he's going to see a major race. I hope he will enjoy it, and you too as well. Looking back down this group here with the work being put in to try and just contain things, and there you can see the damage is being done. The pink jersey of Pataki, not surprisingly, drifting off. We never expected him to survive today in that pink jersey. Coming into today's stage, he's having won 3 of the stages in the sprint finishes. It's not his sort of course today. He was just 1 minute and 9 seconds ahead of Garzelli coming to stage today. 1 minute 27 on Francesco Casagrande, 1:32 on Pelazzotti. Simone, a good climber too, together with Volo at 1:36. So the action now before your eyes is going to change the situation from that which we've been seeing in the past 6 days. And it looks like the Fini Calderola see to make people beginning to put the pressure on the front, but you can't always say that these guys are going to be the ones that will pull it together right by the time we get to the top. off they go. The big boys now, it's just a matter of survival. I wouldn't be surprised that, well, the number of the big fellas are going to get together. We're going to have the bus forming just in a minute. And, well, he's got a minute's advantage on the rest, but there's no way. The thing he's got to do now is ride up within himself and contain himself, because after today's stage, tomorrow, we've got a very interesting little stage into Arezzo with, I won't say flat, but the smaller climbs won't cause too much trouble to Patak, and he might go for another stage victory tomorrow. So the thing to do today is not to go up there and end up in a big heap on the floor and absolutely got nothing left for tomorrow. He's got to ride within himself, get to the top, recover, and then get ready for tomorrow, because he could get another stage victory tomorrow. And you'll see the rest of his team have abandoned him, if I can use that word, abandon. They know he wouldn't get up there, so the white and blue jersey, the Fasabatolo team here with 20 kilometres to go, will now start to move round their lighter contenders for the stage victory and the pink jersey. They're going to transfer their allegiances now to the riders in there, which will be Friga number 64 and Aito Gonzalez number 65. But a lot of chaps here in today want to try and just shuffle the pack. Interesting too that with the Fasabatolo team, Cioni, we've been talking during the last few days about the British riders who have a very good performance so far by Charlie Vegeles. He's lying 40th at 2 minutes and 26 seconds, and he was saying that today is the day when he might be nominated team leader if he can finish ahead of his teammate. They're going to have to work together to do what they have to do for the general classification for the Dinardi Kolpak team. And in fact, Palumbo went off down the road to set the pace, but Charlie Vegeles, number 48 on his back in those lightish blue colours, is riding for Gonchar, the 33-year-old Ukrainian, who's a tremendous and ex-world champion time trialist. So I suspect that the pack could be shuffled in the way that Charlie Vegeles has been riding so far. Yes, he is British. His father is from Finland, and he's a member of the group of riders who've been helped by the Dave Rayner Memorial Fund over the years until he turned pro. Charlie, then, this could be a day when we might see him doing well. But again, as ever, the loose cannons firing off the front. The Kelmic team beginning to work things up at the front, and then they've got the lads in there from the Selitalia, the Columbia Selitalia team. Also, again, this is a special sprintiality team for third category climb coming up, and there goes one of the riders from Freddie Gonzalez. He's up the front at the moment. Can Freddie in the green then get some more points on the third category climb? And it looks like he's going to do just that, though it could mean that he could have the jersey again at the end of it. And he's keeping on going, cheapy little chap. Or is he? So Freddie Gonzalez going over the top. They're getting some more points in the Kingdom Mountains competition, and a bit of a battle going on with the Kelme team there. Came to nothing. That's a sort of a race within the race, by the way. The rest ran too bother about the Kingdom Mountains competition, and particularly the points on the third category climb. They're very small indeed. Interestingly, that the Tour of Italy doesn't have the same number of points for that third category climb now. There's only 3, 2 and 1 points for the first three riders across the line. And we can see now, whoops, takes him right out on the far side. Speedway stuff. And well, I'll wait for official confirmation of that one. But getting to the top of this climb, this is the first of the 5 mountain top finishes, and the first man over the line will get 15 points. This is Freddie here in the green jersey. I think he collected the odd point there, and going back to the first climb of the day, he finished in 3rd spot, where again he got 1 point. So Freddie's points going into this one, according to my quick on the back of the cuff, means he got himself 1 more point on that competition. So he's edging himself further and further up into the leadership on that competition here. It's back to Freddie Gonzalez, but there are 15 points for the winner today of the stage. So woof, stay upright, whatever you do, Freddie. In the Kingdom Mountains competition, he's got 13 points coming this morning. He picked up 1 earlier on. I think he picked up some points there, so he's marginally, I'll wait for official confirmation of this one, marginally has a chance to keep the jersey if he falls on the I mean before, if he's outside the top 5 places. He's done what he can today. Not many points for Freddie, but the man who finishes in 1st spot today will get 15 points in the Kingdom Mountains competition, then 10, 6, 4 and 2. So what Freddie has to do, here he is in the green jersey, he has to stay in the top 5 places to maintain that jersey, because the back of my envelope, I think he's only got 15 points. And the problem is that the man who wins the stage today, there we go, oh, he's got 3. Right, 3 for that. one before. He's got 4, added on 4, plus 3 makes 17. That's it. He's got the Kingdom Managed jersey. Whatever happens now at the end of it all, he will keep that green jersey, but if he doesn't finish in the top 5 place, it'll only be by a couple of points. So at least we know that. One jersey being presented at the end of it all will be to Freddie Gonzalez, as I feel are stringing along here. And Freddie, I think, well, he will know he's got the jersey now, but I think he won't want to give up without staying with the top riders going in towards the back end of the stage today. Time to get one's breath back. You watch the racing here while I go and hang on to your hats. Look at this. And a second one bites the dust. What? Was that Queen, wasn't it? Did Queen, another one bites the dust? Yes, it was, wasn't it? Oh, by the way, did you see that thing on Channel 4 about Queen and the 50 lady with no clothes on and the big poster? Oh, it was me that was there. Yes, it was me. It wasn't my double. I'm not like Saddam Hussein. I don't have many doubles. That was me. Another one bites the dust. Well, he gets back into the race here. And who is going to be the champion singing at the end of it all? Oh, those songs from the days of Queen Group. Oops, there he is. Oh, look at that. He didn't half bite the dust in a bad way too. So, well, Queen, one of my favourite groups. Gosh, I've got so many favourite groups over the years, but Queen particularly, of course, their interest there in that jazz LP with the 50 lady with no clothes on, Fat Bottom Girl, Bicycle Ride and the rest of it. And I've heard that played many times at cycle races too in the past, but you ought to have been there. A bit like working at a bank, the money isn't yours. Now the serious stuff coming on here. Sorry if we go off tangent, Tom, because this is now getting to a very serious point. We've gone through the into Giro when Baxter got that, and I think he's gone into the blue jersey. We've seen Freddie Gonzalez going through and collecting 3 more points in Kingdom Managed Company. We've got 15 more kilometres to go towards the top of the climb. That's about 10 miles lying ahead of the riders here, and we will be probably hearing from Freddie Gonzalez. Now then, this is interesting. This is, by the way, quite allowed. In fact, I'm not quite sure where the flag was, and we haven't seen it yet, but can I just go back? Sorry about this, dear ordinary viewer, who doesn't understand the intricacies of the legal way in which the governing body run the sport. We had that terrible disaster in the Paris-Nice this year when Kivilev crashed and died. You see here, look how the crash that's being undone here with Pataki. And it was on a flattish part of the stage, nothing tremendous going happen, and he just touched the wheel and down he went. And the UCI decided there and then that the riders in future would always have to wear crash hats in races. The professionals about 10 years ago, when they were supposed to wear the crash hats, they went on strike. They would not wear the crash hats. They said it must be up to us as riders to decide when to wear our helmets. And look at them now taking them off. And what has happened is that the UCI have recognised that there has to be exceptions, and this is the exception, and it has been agreed by the UCI that when the riders go through the point where the Kingdom Managed competition starts for a race which finishes at the top of the mountain, okay, it has to be a stage which finishes at the top of the mountain. You can't go up and then a bit down the other side. The law clearly now says that you can take your crash hat off only if the race finishes at the top of the climb. The reason has been agreed by the UCI in conjunction with conversations with the riders is that it's not too hot today, by the way, but some days it can be baking hot, 25, 27, 30 degrees. You see, and now Pantani's starting to go forward. 25%, if I'm boring the people who've heard this so many times ad nauseum in my coverage and commentary on Eurosport over the years, 25% of your heat loss goes through your head. And if you have to have a hat on which contains that heat, it can weaken you. And so the riders, and it has been agreed that on the climbs, as you got Selly going through here too without a hat, they're all taking the hats off now. It must be bonanza time for the spectators on the side of the road as the hats get flung out as they now start to attack the final kilometres of this climb. on this climb, the riders hatless now. Because that is the rule. They can do that because obviously they're going up here at about what I call running pace, not walking pace. If you touch a wheel and fall off, the chances of cracking your head on the deck is very remote. So that is what they're doing now. It's hot, it's hard, and look at the riders who have been riding so strongly in the past few days. Here we can see, is that Frigo? It's Frigo. That's a bad sign for Fassa Bartolo. Christie Anderson, we're coming in these last few kilometres now, Christie. Just seen them throwing their crash hats off. It's hot today, isn't it? How do you view it now? I don't know if you can see any of the pictures up there at the finish, but this is a cracking finish. Any idea who's going to win again?
Well, actually, David, I'm standing in front of a big screen right now, so I do have an idea what you're looking at. It's definitely going to be the usual suspects, but you can add one of your favorites, Marco Pantani, because today is a day where he actually could do something. And look, he's looking good for a top 10 finish overall. But I still feel Garzelli is the one for today, and of course Simone's going to just try to minimize the harm, I think, that Garzelli takes out of him today, because those two with Casagrande are going to be the three up for this tour.
Well, this is a critical day, isn't it, Christie? You've been out there looking at the stages so far, and people may have just joined us on Eurosport. Just a quick look back at what's happened so far. Just how's your feeling about the race has gone so far?
Well, it has been a very relaxed a sprinter's beginning, just like last year's Tour de France. It's very back-end loaded with the mountains. So the sprinters have really been under the gun for the first 6 stages, and Pataki has just been unbelievably powerful. And even yesterday, you may have noticed in the sprint finish with Cipollini that Mario just stopped working, because I think, honestly, it was too difficult for him to deal with a second place to Pataki, who just seems unstoppable at this point. Plus, of course, Pataki's got an incredibly strong team, just ripping it up at the end of every stage.
Well, that's what's happened so far. And Christie, you have more chance to talk to people in the press room, because television commentators can't always... I won't say we don't want to mix with journalists and photographers, but we have a different job to do, being on air for so many hours like we are. But what's the atmosphere amongst your press colleagues about the race this year?
Well, it is absolutely... tangible. You can get to people, you can talk to anyone you like. There's no exclusivity here, and it seems like it's just one big family, and it doesn't really matter whether it's an Italian rider or a foreign rider. Everybody is very accessible, and oddly enough, even though I don't speak Italian, people seem to be willing to try to communicate for any sort of questions.
Yeah, well, I'll agree with that, by the way. I mean, I love the Tour of Italy. I'll probably get banged on the head by Jean-Marie Leblanc, but to me it's a much better race than the Tour de France for many reasons, and it's been fantastic. But going back, because some of our viewers may not have heard the early part, just a quick comment about Robin McEwen and the Australian attitude to the race.
Well, the Australians are certainly here to make a statement. They're not using this race as a training race, that's for sure. Even though Robbie has stated that he will go home after 13 stages in preparation for his campaign for the green jersey in this year's Tour de France, he is in no way looking at this as a training event. He wants as many stage wins as he can get, and he's willing to get in there and mix it up with Cipollini and Pataki, who are by far the three most eligible bachelors. No, I'm just kidding. The three most top-level sprinters in the field. But having said that, the second tier, which is not far down, contains the likes of Graham Brown, Fabio Baldato, and some other really well-seasoned sprinters who, given any opportunity, are going to take a stage.
Well, I felt that talking to Rob McEwen. He seemed very much relaxed about the race this year, probably more than he's wound up in the Tour de France. So that's sort of your Australian point of view. We've got to go off air, I think, shortly talking to you, because you can see how it's beginning to form before our very eyes now, Christie. Just a word about the Brits, because we're on air for British Eurosport on a recorded version, and they may have missed what we talked about earlier on. A word about the Brits from your point of view.
Well, having a nice chat with Julian Wynne this morning, and nice to see that British jersey out here at the Giro for the first time in history. And he's relaxed. He has one main objective, and that is to complete the tour. But he is in no way suffering or doing it hard. He said this is the longest race he's ever ridden, but he feels that he's pacing himself well, and he was very fresh this morning, and you know, not intimidated by the profile of today's stage, which is a rather arduous profile. That descent, that first big descent, was just gnarly in terms of the peloton would have been, the first one coming down to the bottom would have been 3 minutes ahead of the last one in one long line.
Well, thank you for that, Christie, because you can see what I can see. It's splitting now, and thanks for joining us on Eurosport, because you can get amongst the riders like we can't get amongst, and we look forward to seeing particularly how Charlie Vegelis goes on today. He's a little mountain climber, looking for a day in the Dardy colours to do something, but we'll have to wait and see then. In fact, I think I can see him on screen right now. In fact, that was Charlie Vegelis. I think it was him going past Francesco. Thanks for your comments. We look forward to talking to you anon, Christie, and I'm sure the people back at home value what you got to say. Thanks much indeed. Bye-bye, Chris.
Okay, thank you, David.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, there we are. I'm sorry if it interfered with some of your pictures of what was happening here, but he's settling down now, and certainly Frigo and Aito Gonzalez are struggling. They've been dropped there. As you can see that the riders from the Lampre Daikin team here with Casagrande beginning to make life difficult too. And their Garzelli lying second in the line is looking good and quite comfortable. Alongside him, or just behind him in the red jersey, and that is Simoni. Moving up there to number 11 in the orange jersey, that's Tonkov, a past winner in this race a few years ago. Probably, I suppose, of all the winners, the most long-standing champion in this race. He's got a lot of strength and courage, and knows what to do. And this gets it gets a bit harder towards the end of the climb as we now go up there toward the top of this stage, Avezzano to Terminio, 146 kilometres. That's 91 miles. You can see the pictures on your screen now, as this is the first big real day in the mountains. We've got 5 mountain top finishes. They've been allowed to take their crash hats off on the final climb when it finishes at the top of a mountain. And right now you can see Pantani pedaling his little gear on those very lightweight wheels that he's put on today specifically for this stage. But Cupio there, Perez Cupio at the front, is beginning to cause trouble as the gaps are opening up all over the place. This is every man for himself right now. The teamwork has been done over the preceding 6 days, and unfortunately for Fassa Bertola, it seems blunted. Frigo and Aito Gonzalez, who are drifting off, and Perez Cupio is just riding away, twiddling a little gear. That is an example, by the way, to you followers of the sport, how they're using much lower gears now. We've seen people hauling themselves up on monumental big gears, but now a lot of them are beginning to twiddle little ones, and that's a little rundown there on this group. And of that lot, Palazzotti, Tonkov, Rumšas, Simoni, Garzelli. Simoni and Garzelli must be the ones we have to watch out for. But the Palazzotti there from Alessio, number 9 on his back, he's the up-and-coming star of the Italian firmament, and they're looking for him, I think, in the future. But do bear in mind, as we're going there with Figueres following after Perez, that it's a stage victory today, and then it's an overall victory that's going to be fought out for the riders as they're fragmented all over the place. What a fascinating day we've got. Casagrande looks like he's now beyond his own. This is where, well, about another 3-4 kilometres from now, they'll be beginning to go in dribs and drabs, and their team leaders will find themselves distanced. And there you can just see now how Cupio trying to go across Perez, trying to go across that gap with the Figueres. Figueres ought to come through, I think, and try and tie him up, because Perez is probably the sharper and the better climber, those two. And looking down there and just going through at the moment, that's Charlie Vegelis, number 48, right inside your screen. And look at him, he's just going through here. Charlie Vegelis, what a great sight, passing Casagrande. Oh, Brits back home and followers of the Dave Rayner Memorial Fund, who put up some money to help Charlie some years ago, must be pleased to see how Charlie's twiddling away there. Remember sitting in the sunshine in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur earlier this year, talking to Charlie about his aims and ambitions for the season, and they thought this was the year to go for it. He's just gone past this man. He's on the front now, towing, of all things, Casagrande. Well, this is a great sight. I'm sorry, by the way, because I shouldn't get carried away a bit like this. Not far enough, you might say, but the English version of Eurosport goes out across the whole of the 90 million plus homes that Eurosport reach, and that is an enormous, great, what we call footprint. And I know that people, in fact in Italy probably, Luigi Ottenzi has been supplying with information about the food and the wine across the whole of the route, is listening maybe with his friends there, that if I get a bit sort of biased to watch Casagrande dropping back and the Garzelli here, the Italian and Pantani, if I get a bit biased talking about some of the Brits taking part in it, but certainly we have been in a bit of a trough over the years. We've had in recent years people like Chris Boardman doing great rides. We had the yellow jersey being taken by Sean Yates. By the way, Sean, if this message gets to you, I wish you well and hope everything's going okay. That's a coded message, by the way, to Sean Yates, as they all now are beginning to wind their way up this climb. And again, the danger must be Garzelli. He's already got himself a stage victory on that long drag up on stage 3. Can he win today? Can he take the pink jersey? Wait and see. That's the driving group at the front on your screen, quite a fair number of them. And the suspects here, the main suspects for it, are there on your screen. Particularly sitting at the back then, looks like he was riding rather comfortably, Pelazzotti for the Lazio team. But I think coming back, Pantani is containing himself. Look at this. Whatever we might say about the problems that he's been through, as our cameras go up to 10 kilometres to go, and again, as commentator, we're not supposed to be biased to anybody, but I like sport full of characters. And with 10 Ks to go, one man who's not raced until he came into this season with, I think, 338 days he'd been off his bike and banned from racing for various reasons, much of which he said was questionable. He argued his case. To see him come back, Pantani. In fact, funny enough, like 26% of the Italian population, as you see Charlie Vegelis, number 48, going on the 10 kilometre go with just Casagrande behind him. This is a wonderful sight, by the way, that Pantani trying to get back up that little group in front. And also just behind there, 165 riding for the Factor team, looking quite comfortable at the moment, and that's a good sign then for the man then Scott Sunderland, if that was him then, Scott, who has his special website in which you can find all sorts of information about the race. We go back down to Garzelli, that with Pantani coming back into the race this year, I think he's added a new dimension, and whatever there might have been the problems in the past, I like to think of the prodigal son. When the prodigal son returned, then he was received and was taken into the bosom of his people. And I think with Pantani too, that he can add that new dimension. It can show, like Pelazzotti here at the back, the new kids on the block, that he's still prepared to have a go. Perhaps when 26% of the population said, look, he starts to go here, Pantani was going to win the Tour of Italy. They were doing, I think, just out of their heart, not their heads. And what I think he's openly said he's looking for just a stage victory. But he's riding up here, and that's a beautiful sight to see this man back in competition, just ahead of Scott Sunderland, another man who's come back to the sport after a horrific crash when he was knocked off his bike by the director sportif in the car, and he had terrible problems with his head when he was knocked off. Although he even had a crash hat on, the impact meant that he had bad problems. I forget what the true details were, like sizzling sounds in his head. He had vision problems, and after a long period when perhaps Scott could have retired from the sport, he fought his way back, and there he is riding up just behind the main part of this main group. Looking down there, we're picking up some of these riders on your screen right now, and that was Popovich, number 127, the rider from the Ukraine. Again, a man that's tipped to do rather well, because he was virtually I suppose supported by Colnago to put him in the team, as Perez there just drifting away. We saw him with Figueres further back, and it's splitting now. You can see the desperation. Can I have another drink? Will it help me up here? And that's your little split then. And look down that list on the left-hand side. You can pick him up there. And on the right-hand side, looking down there, is Charlie Vegelis in that little group then, with a very interesting group of riders. This surely will mean, as Charlie was saying to me the other day, that when he comes out of this one, if he moves up to be the best placed rider, then the team will ride for him. And still, Pantani just there, towing along, Scott Sunderland just behind him in the black and red for the Factor team, and moving through and just sitting in the wheels. His belly, Lamprey's rider. Well, just earlier on, you may have listened to our chat with Christie and she was talking to Belly this morning, who was mildly comment. Belly was the man who was the best under 23 rider in the Kellogg's Pro Tour a few years ago and won himself a nice little Rover car for 12 months. And as far as I know, he kept it on the tarmac, whereas the man who won it the year before ended up stuffing in a ditch and smashed the thing to pieces. And Belly's just behind there, and this is our lead group. And the work being done here with Garzelli there. Look who's on his wheel, just watching what's going on. You can just see them here as Pantani and Garzelli are fighting out. This is Pantani. This man is full of determination. Oh, it's a great picture. You could retire. Many people who don't know about cycling, why the hell do they do it? And honestly, we don't know. Those who have ridden bikes over the years, and gosh, I was never at this level, but I went through some pretty bad patches. And you watch this now. Here, Tonkov, he's I'm saying the twilight of his career now, riding with the CCC Polsat team, aged 34 years of age, and here he is still prepared to ride up there, just near the front of the group here. And it was Tonkov who won the race in 1996. How many sportsmen over these years at 33 will still be contesting at the highest level? And that's what cyclists do. I'm sure that old cyclists never die, they only fade away. And by the way, talk about old cyclists that do die. I don't know whether back in Great Britain, whether you've caught up with the unfortunate death of Rick van Steenbergen. He died a couple of days ago, and his funeral is going to be held on the 24th of May, and a great sadness then for a man who was winner of the Tour of Flanders twice, the Paris-Roubaix twice, Flèche-Wallonne twice, Milan-San Remo, 3 times world champion too as well. And so finally, at the age of 78, Rick van Steenbergen died during this week, and I'm sure that many of the British cyclists who may not have caught up with that would join me in the sadness of that great grand champion. He was through there at a particular era when, for instance, he won 46-day races that he took part in, and over 1943, 1966, all those years, he was a man who you could never let up. He couldn't climb hills, he wasn't that strong in the mountains, but he had a lot of guts and determination, and now he's no longer with us. And whilst we're watching this settling down here too, if I'd just like again to pass as Rick van Steenbergen is no longer with us, my sympathies to those who knew Bob Short, Bob the Bike from Worcester St John's. He also, like Rick van Steenbergen, passed away as a result of cancer, and his funeral is going to be this coming Monday, the 19th of May. And Worcester St John's said, well, what's the significance of that? Well, that was a club that Toby Moody, for instance, who is the motorcycle commentator for Eurosport, he got involved in cycling through Bob the Bike. And Bob was one of those hard-working, vociferous riders who helped a lot of local people. He tried to race, but he hadn't got the ability, but he never gave up loving his cycling, and he used to phone me when I get back home after travels, and in his gruff way would talk, and he was a great character, and I'm sure the members of the Worcester Cycling fraternity will miss him. He also was encouraged, for instance, by Kane Theakston, who went on to win the Tour of Portugal and hold the yellow jersey for 17 stays, the only British rider to win a 3-week professional tour. So that was Bob, 73 years of age. That's what sport's all about. You get the grand champions, you get the riders who try and never get there, but look after the sport in such a great way. And so our conversations go out to the friends of Bob Short, whose funeral will be on the 19th of May, and to those who knew the great Rick van Steenbergen, who also passed away this week. Looking here at Pantani, on those special wheels, you can see the sort of a big black hub in the centre and the black rings round about them. These are special wheels. Now, I mentioned it before, and probably the sponsors of the wheels that they normally use will give me a sharp clip around the ear or wrap me across the knuckles, because there are 1 or 2 riders who are choosing to use these very special lightweight wheels. And you can see now here, that little break, we go 2, 4, 6, 8, maybe 10 riders being chased down by a group including Perez, and a bit further back is Pantani. And this is the problem at the back, by the way, because here Artur Gonzalez is struggling, and this is a group a lot further back down the road, including Frigo as well. He was going through a bad patch likewise, and so now they've got to do something about the difficulty. There's 7 kilometres to go, as we're seeing perhaps the problems of not having had many racing days, as Artur Gonzalez, winner of the Tour of Spain, is finding themselves in all sorts of trouble. Looking back down that little chasing group too as well, just sitting in the back there is Zanotil from the Gennady team. That's Charlie Vegas' team, and Charlie's being riding extremely well, trying to bridge the gap between leading group and the chasers. So Pelazzotti doesn't look too happy. He's been shelled out at the moment. The fellow with the blonde flowing locks from the Alessio T number 9 on his back, and he's dropping off. It's all about judgment, these climbs. As we go up then towards the top of the climb, there's Perez coming through, doing a bit of toe jump too as well. Looks like he's got Contrini with him from Gerolsteiner on this climb. It's looking back down there too. Fragmented group, and Casagrande's back there too as well. I think what's happened to Charlie Vegas, who was in that little group. This is Tonkov, I think, beginning to blow in the orange jersey. Quick recap. The climb, 16.1 kilometres. That's just on 10 miles. There's Pantani, followed by Scott Sunderland. Followed just behind then is Velo, Marco Velo. So back then to the climb, 16 kilometres, about 10 miles of climbing. They go up a distance, the actual from the climbing bit, 1,175 metres. That's Charlie Vegas, just this being the top right-hand corner of our climb, of our picture. The average 7.3, the worst part 12%. Going up here 17 times. We finished the Tour of Italy in this particular climb. It was way back in 1936 when Olmo won the first time. And you imagine what the roads were like in 1936, just nothing more than tracks. And then in 1937, when the situation would be the same, the great man himself, Bartali, went in to win the stage. And then following after that then, in 1938, Velotti, then 1939, Velotti, then after the war, 1987, Buggle from France, and 1992, that very specialist climber from Colombia, Herrera, won the stage. And in 1997, Tonkov, who we just saw drifting back off the pace, won the stage on that particular occasion. Now, going back then to 1937 and Bartali, those of you reading cycling magazines may have caught up with something which I also heard a bit back now, that during the war, Bartali put his own life at risk when he would go training to carry certain documents which enabled several hundred of the Jews to escape the persecution which was then rampant in the part of Italy where he lived. And amazing, nobody knew anything about it. Bartali, who only died, 3 years ago now, was a very strong, bold champion, but never thought much about his family life. And he was the man who won, and his background to what he did then. In 1937, Bartali was the man who won this stage, the second time that we came up to finish. But you can imagine those days, the state of the road, nothing like they are here today, as we're heading toward the top of this zigzag route. We're getting in toward the back end now. It's the 11%er coming on now, as they turn and twist their way through up towards the final part. And here we go, as the attacks are coming, as Simoni starts to put the pressure on. Marked by Carselli. Marked again by the rest, closing him down, but has it worked? Tonkov fighting his way back. That's a great ride by Tonkov. He's looking so much fitter now. You can see his cheeks. Most people, as here on the front, Simoni in the red and Garcelli, and Tonkov trying to get back there, winner of this stage up to the finish in 1997. Tonkov looks that much fitter. The cheeks, you know, all sucked in, and the cheekbones sticking up. He's been a bit chubby from time to time, Tonkov, but he's come into this race much slimmed down. But he's now up against two great grand champions here. Simoni on the front, Garcelli just behind him. This is where the whole of the next few days are going to be set, the position, the picture for these two riders, and what a problem they've had, both of them, Garzelli and Simone. More of that anon as we pick up some of the chasers coming up here. Andrea was having difficulty holding on. This man Pelazzotti also from Alessio. Alessio, by the way, on the team competition have been great. At one time they led on both the points and the time competition. Now they come up towards this particular part of the course on the time. They still have the time classification. They've dropped out on the points to Fasa. I think the way they're going now, that we could see the Alessio team taking over the competition for both the team on points and time. But these two now are giving us on this Saturday afternoon here live on Eurosport this stage 7 of the Tour of Italy from Avezzano to Termino, 146 kilometers, that's 91 miles, a tremendous battle to set the scene in this, the 86th Tour of Italy. 1 minute and 4 seconds. Surely at this rate those two will stay away. There's time bonuses too at the end of it. Who then will take the pink jersey? Looking at the overall general classification coming to stage this morning, Pataki in the pink jersey from those superb sprint finishes that's given him those stage victories, knew he wouldn't be able to survive the day. So these two coming through at the moment going into stage. And Garzelli this morning was at 1 minute and 9 seconds. That's now gone. There's no way that Pataki can defend that pink jersey. Casagrande is further down the road. He was 1:27 this morning, so Garzelli's got rid of him. Pelazzotti, who's been struggling further back, was 1:32, so something like about 23 seconds back at the moment. Pelazzotti dropping him further back. But now Simone coming through here this morning was at 1 minute and 36 seconds down on Pataki. Garzelli was 1:09. So Garzelli there, as we now move our cameras back down to Tonkov, has a little bit of a buffer on the run up towards the finish at the moment, and if my arithmetic is correct, it's about 27 seconds between Casagrande and Simone who are batting it. Here we are. So Simone now starting this morning 27 seconds adrift, if my arithmetic is correct, from Garzelli. So Garzelli can stay here and just stay in the wheels, and then when we get to the finish there'll be 20 seconds bonus for the first man across the line. So technically, if Garzelli just stays there, then he'll be okay, because not only will be 20 seconds going to Simone if he gets the stage victory, but there'll also be a small bonus for the second place spot, which will be 12 seconds, and the third place man will get 8. So little battles being going on here, I think psychologically as much as anything, as Pantani is now getting the company. But these are the two chaps now. On paper at the moment, Garzelli just has to stay with Simone. I think he'd like to try and pop him in the sprint, but Simone now has to put the pressure on. Simone has to make Garzelli's legs struggle. And here we go, Simone, well, he's had more than his fair share of problems. Both these two have, and I'm glad to see them both back, and I'm sure you are, sports followers back in Great Britain, know about what's been going on. As Tonkov here, that's interesting, he just knocked back his quick release mechanism on his brake, because sometimes as they get out the saddle, the back wheel can sometimes move close to the brakes blocks, so he knocked it off there as he's now trying to pull in under. I know he just opened it up because he's not going to put those brakes on. It's all uphill from now on to make sure there's no loss of power going into the back wheel, just rubbing on the brakes. But these two now are going to fight it out between the two of them. Garzelli, winner of the Tour of Italy in the year 2000. Simone, winner of the Tour of Italy in the year 2001. Two grand champions fighting it out here, and they had enormous problems last year, both of them. When Garzelli, when they took a test, found that he got in his system a substance which is normally used for if you've got water on your joints and things like that. It's some sort of way of taking it out. Then it's also used as a mask. They found in his system, and it's amazing that it was there, and there was no reason as to why he should open up, have that proper medicine, but he did. And then Simone who then became the sort of man to watch during the Tour last year. They discovered that in a test back before, that was in Trinidad Adriatico on the right-hand side here, they found traces of cocaine in his urine. And so he got slung off the race. They discovered some more traces about 2 or 3 days into the race, and they discovered, amazingly enough, that he had been sucking some sweets that his auntie had brought him from Colombia, and there was a trace of cocaine. And this is the absolute thing. And in the end, he was slung off the race, was Simone, and that was it as far as he was concerned. Also, Gazzelli was off too. So great drama last year. Now these two are back, and they're just making sure. This is half the trouble. I remember when Eddie Merckx was found to have illegal substance in his urine after a test, and they never ever failed the drug test. They reckon that somebody had fiddled his sample. Now, I'm not saying that happened to these two, but one thing I do like about cycle racing is we are deliberately determined, absolutely, that we'll stop anybody's in. Because in the end, and I remember a very good friend of mine saying, David, if we all rode on mineral water, the result would be the same, except for the oddballs who just do something stupid and then they do wham and they don't see him again. But all these cyclists don't want to be involved in illegal substances. They come into cycling because they like it. They start racing because it's we're all competitive, we men, and then one becomes better than the other, and here they are head to head at the moment. And if they're all riding absolutely clean, the results will be there, and this is what we want in our sport. And we have been the hardest sport on the offenders. Other sports, my goodness, the things I've read over recent years, and even in the last 12 to 18 months, who've sometimes turned a blind eye away. We have not as a sport. We've gone out, even as an element of doubt as to why this cocaine came into Simone's sample. Bang! You're out, bang, you're out. And that has had problems in other sports too, because sometimes by accident somebody's got a problem with, if we have with Baxter, the downhill skier that went and bought a simple little thing to suck up his nose to clear his throat and his back, and a small amount of this substance was found in the urine. We need these tests across sport because there are people out there who cheat, and we don't want that. Any of us do. We want real sportsmen, sportswomen on a level playing field, so we can all watch it and we can all feel at the end of it all we saw the right result of that particular event. And that's good that in cycling we are putting the pressure on probably the greatest sport. We carry out more tests, as far as I know, than any other sport. And now we're watching these two grand champions, both past winners of the Tour of Italy. Both had their problems. On the left-hand side, Gazzelli, the right-hand side, Simone. And coming up to them now to try and make life a bit difficult is Noé from Alassio. Now, he has been around a long time now, but I think he got the stage victory in the Tour de France a few years ago. I'll go and dig into my list here, but this is a surprise. He's suddenly come up there and he's now making life difficult. So I'm sorry I've been lecturing a bit to people back at home and say, David, get off your high horse and your soapbox. We want to watch the bike racing going on. But if you have a soul for cycle racing like I do, I want to see these riders ride clean. I want to see the sport here, and you back at home can just soak up the way they are doing what they have to do. These climbs they're going over, 2,500 miles in 3 weeks of bicycle racing. And here they are on the first mountain finish of the Tour of Italy this year in 2003. Two of them who expected to be there, and who would have expected Noé to pop up and maybe spoil the party. We shall see. Coming up towards 1 kilometre to go. On paper, providing Gazzelli stays with Simone, he will take the pink jersey. Even with the bonuses, Noé looking down the list at the moment on the general classification as Pelazzotti starts to come back. Now, Pelazzotti this morning was 1:32. This is danger. Now, I wonder if, in fact, Noé is going to go back and help him, or is he letting these two go? No, he can't. He's starting to go. Noé this morning was back in 9th spot at 1:44. He's got to go. And, well, I think his teammate would like him to try and help him, but it's not going to work out that way. These two are going to battle it out together. Noé suddenly... has now been blown out. They've just kept themselves cool, these two. He came up, they weren't too bothered, and now they're starting to have their own little battle then. Going in then to this final part with those bonuses on the finishing line of 22nd for first, then 12, then going down for the third place, which none of these two will finish in third. This one falls off at a big heap. Going in toward the finish now then. 20, 12 and 8. And who's going to be there in the third spot? But who's going to be first? Well, Garcelli got that sprint on stage 3. A bit of an uphill drag there. He beat Casagrande and Pataki on that occasion. He probably got the sharpest sprint. But can Simoni outgun him? Simoni in the red for the Psycho team on his Cannondale bicycle. And on the left-hand side, riding here for a smaller team. I don't want to be too disrespectful for them, but Vinny Calderaro Siedemac team is not at the same power and level of the Psycho team, because Garcelli's had to find his way back into the sport. He was riding with the Mape team, which folded, many riders having to find themselves new employment. Again, on those very special wheels with the deep rims and the special hubs is Garcelli. Can they go to victory? Will that nice gentleman who makes these hand-built wheels way up there in, I think it's Holland, as the ADO or ADR, it's ADO. Will he actually have a victory here, or is it going to be this man who'll swarm past them? Noe, is he coming back, or is Simoni? They're going to watch out for the way Noe coming up here. If they're not careful, if he's got anything left, can he go past them? Here he goes. He's got to look for the gap. No, he's fighting his way back. But I think he's done all he can to get there, and he's just gone in the wheels. And further back then, the rest of the riders will be going for places off the podium as these three now begin to get ready for the run-up towards the finish at Tomelillo. There's absolutely no indication at the moment as we come to 1 kilometre to go, except the way that Garcelli got stage 3. Who's going to get this one? And they've got to watch out for Noe, because he'll sit in the wheels. Garcelli in yellow for Vino Calderaro Siedemac. On the right-hand side for Psycho. The team then is likely to fold in this year. Psycho manufacturers of coffee machines. They want to get plenty of results this year to encourage the sponsor to stay with them. Malaysia behind, manufacturer of aluminium wheels for motor cars et al. Riding on that lovely De Rosa bike. Noe is probably, he's come back good. Now these two are going to watch each other. And Noe, has he got anything left? Good, isn't it? Around the final twist, and soon it's going to level off just that little bit, and they have to come out the saddle and start to do something about it. And Simoni tries to put Garcelli into the barriers, and he's done just that at the moment. Garcelli seems to have lost a bit of power then with 600 metres to go, and he's going to be boxed if he's not careful with Noe on the right-hand side as he comes back at him again. Too soon to go. It has to be the last 200 metres, surely. Garcelli looking for a gap on the inside, but Noe's just closing it down. And Simoni, who has to do the work, because coming into this, he was the man lying 5th on general classifications. Garcelli was 2nd. And they can't let go, because the rest of the cavalry is coming up. What's fragmented left of it? They've been riding up these climbs, they've been practicing them, but they can't practice a finish like this. For all the times you train on the climbs, for all the times you imagine what it might be, who would have thought that these two riders who have been tipped to be the top riders when we get to Milan in 2 weeks' time, as Garcelli, yes, for the sprint, surely comes off the line now, looks back then nonchalantly almost to Simoni. It comes through here, and that's it. Garcelli takes the bonuses, takes the stage. Simoni is 2nd, Noe is into 3rd spot. Well, 3 hours and 55 minutes to cover the 91 miles of racing today, and it all was down to that last climb, the 16 kilometers up here toward the top of this mountain. And look at the gap they opened up. pack's going to be well and truly shuffled at the end of this one. Don't like cliches, I shouldn't have said that, should I? But there's no doubt about it. This is the real first day in which the riders who are going to be on the frame or in the frame at Milan on 2 weeks today began to show themselves. Bellotti won't have done himself any harm at all on that general classification. In fact, and here comes Perez bringing up alongside him too, just behind him, Conflini from the Galastana team. That's quite a good little rider then, as far as he's concerned. Perez is way off the pace, by the way, on general classification. He's about 2.5, 3.5 under. He's way off the frame at the moment, so he was just looking for a stage but didn't quite work out. He'll be moving up a little bit then, but certainly the biggest loss of the day must be with Artur Gonzalez, who started out 1:58 down. And this man too on his screen now, Casagrande, was third this morning at 1 minute and 27 seconds, and he's not had a good day today. But it's not all over yet. We've got a long way to go, and therefore he will just contain himself in. He'll be followed by Scarponi from the Dominic Vacanze Elitron team, one of Cipollini's teammates, just riding up here. So for Casagrande, a disappointing day perhaps that he couldn't quite hold it. You can see it on his face, but there's a long way to go yet. This is only the first of 5 mountaintop finishes, and riders can recover, come good towards the end, and after a while, if you're not going to be in the frame for a place in the podium, then you'll go for stage victories. And that's exactly what Bradley Wiggins was saying to me last night, that his whole ambition was to survive the 3 weeks, but also to look for the day when the race settled down. The gaps are opening up now. If you think they're going on down on the general classification, we'd got down to what the 30th place on the general classification was within 2 minutes of the overall leader as at this morning. And here comes in the green behind these riders here, Freddy Gonzalez, still in the green. He'll be tonight. That what Bradley Wiggins was saying was his whole attitude of this race is to last the 3 weeks, but also as it settles down, as it will do after what we're seeing here, and maybe even more so because we've got another thumping great mountaintop finish, and that's going to be on stage 12. Once it settles down a bit, and then if you're way down general classification, and Bradley this morning for instance was 26 minutes down on general classification, Julian Wynne was 26 minutes down, that they may have an opportunity of going for stage victory. Charlie Vegas, who I hope we'll see coming up here, if I haven't missed him, because it's not easy to read the notes and look at what's going on. Charlie this morning 2 minutes and 26 seconds down. Well, there he is. There's Charlie just coming through now. He won't be allowed a lot of freedom, by the way, because all these riders here looking for top 20 places. It's good to see then that we've got a rider up there in the frame, because providing it just hold his cool and wait for things to happen further on down. Charlie Vegas started 40th this morning at 2 minutes and 26 seconds. And here Pantani is in that little group too as well. Who would have thought then that we'd like to see a man like Pantani and Charlie Vegas coming in at a finish of a stage as close as they're doing just today. So bringing it live on Eurosport, the stage when it's setting the scene for the next 2 weeks. But as in all bike races, today they may feel good, and then tomorrow the man with the hammer can get you. But then tomorrow it won't be all that bad, by the way, because coming out of the stage tomorrow, it's just been undulating, and it could be a day when the sprinters will come back and get their own back on the specialist mountain climb. We're going to Reto to Arezzo tomorrow, and that stage will not, I think we're seeing this man coming across the line in first spot. We could be back with the normal suspects, the usual suspects of Pataki, who's now going to lose his yellow jersey, sorry, lose his pink jersey to